actually. Lawyers talk about it quite more often, and not just to talk about it, take it to the table where some potential decision can be taken. Now, if we talk about US, again, sensitive data, personal information data, personally identifiable data. These are aspects which they categorize in order to give rights to the individual via First Amendment or via other laws which deal with right to privacy to take to the court on their own. They don't have to wait for the intervention of regulatory bodies or for the government to come for the rescue. They can directly go to the court. Yeah, because obviously, even if it is a financial data which government has to have access to, still you are the owner. You should have the first right if there is any kind of breach. So this is something that is there in US, but it's not there in India. So yes, that's my input on it.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. So this will be the final point that I would really love to have a discussion on. Is one thing is data, and specifically medical data that we discuss. And so I wanted to discuss this further, that when we are trying to define data, there is a ever evolving definition of the word. Because if we go roughly 2 decades back, let's say, and have a discussion and let a person define what a sensitive data to him is in terms of digital sensitive data, not in anybody's mind the fact that your let's say ECG, let's say a heart rate that is being calculated, that sort of stuff can also be considered data, because the concept of smartwatches was not there. So coming back 2 decades now, we have smartwatches with almost extremely affordable smartwatches are there. So that sort of data is also being gathered by companies. So the definition of data now in the future, I wanted to discuss key, if we are defining data, let's say 10 years or 20 years from now, what sort of changes are you assuming, or are you seeing that might be included in defining data? Altamash, sir.
Yes. So I think one of the important aspects which I feel, with not just data generally speaking, I also feel, and I mean, I'm just circling back to the actual theme today, is not just India, but a lot of countries, probably almost everybody, there are no gender specific laws which govern it. While we know that in a space like cyber, digital world, women will always be more vulnerable to this, but there are no specific gender related provisions, and almost none of the countries or the major legislations deal with it very specifically. India does have it in IPC with couple of provisions which were added, but generally speaking, there are no gender relevant, and most of these legislations are always gender neutral. So even if you see IT Act, Data Protection Act, all those are very gender neutral again. Now, as you said that these are ever evolving landscapes, and thus what we see today's definition may not be very relevant 5 years later, and what is relevant today was not relevant in last decade maybe. And I feel that an important aspect of it is that we need to realize that how technology works is that, it's not that when, electricity wasn't there and people used to have candles. So, candles became bigger candles, and, for number of candles would have been used to have more light, whatever maybe the, but it's not an evolving process. A day electricity came in, candles became redundant. So it was a very quick change. That's how technology works. And unless we have that perception developed that it won't be evolving, that, today what is relevant for, maybe kept relevant for again for 5 years. But there could be a day where again, disruption may happen, and immediately by next day, you'll be, completely, fallen back, and you probably would feel that your definitions or legislations are very rudimentary because they're not dealing with it. I think a very classic example, 24 hours ago, there's a new app which was Sora, which came out, which is a new app by OpenAI. What they are now doing is with text, very detailed, high resolution 60-second video can be made. And it's almost impossible for anybody to even tell the difference whether it's a real video or AI generated video. We had this about 6-8 months ago with ChatGPT. People were using it now. Of course, there are softwares developed where you can make out whether something is written by using tools like ChatGPT, and I'm hoping again something for Sora would be developed. But what happens is that when we started this conference in the morning of 16th, Sora did not exist, and by the afternoon it existed. So even before you could conclude this conference, there has been a disruption, and we are already behind, basically. And apps like these, Sora, while they are very good for people who do not have resources to employ people, shoot videos, maybe not cameras, etc., etc. Again, the problems that, as I think in the first point, Dr. Zahra had pointed out, that while there are a lot of advantages, there are of course disadvantages which come with it. And apps like Sora would be very easily used to, spread misinformation about anything. And hopefully, we will not see the day where this cannot be contained. But I'm told that OpenAI, being a very ethical sort of company working around it, are taking baby steps to ensure that this doesn't happen. So I feel that unless that concept is very clear, that technology doesn't evolve over time as we think of other things, like architecture may evolve into something else. Again, dressing sense or fashion sense may evolve into something which is a slow process. Technology doesn't follow that rule. It's an immediate impact on it, and within a couple of hours, you could be left, and you may be wondering what else we can do. So I think with time we'll realize that the definition that we are having today of personal data may involve much more than what we were having in last year. As you pointed out, digital smartwatches, a lot of these apps, of course, to help us, are containing these data for my heartbeat, my oxygen levels, my medical history, could be anything, maybe some heart attack that I may have felt. These are important aspects today. Tomorrow this may be something else, day after it could be something else. It'll be very difficult to pinpoint what could it be by by the time 2025 happens. But I feel that we need to be very vigilant that these evolving technologies which are disrupting various sectors around us, unless we keep pace with it, unless we have a direct connection on how these developments are happening, we will always be a step behind, and then we'll again be wondering what else could be done to improve upon it, to change it, to be able to be at a better position than we already are.
Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Zara, ma'am.
Yeah, I believe you were asking about this definition of data and how do we feel that it needs to be protected. Now comes into picture the case of Puttaswamy versus Union of India, and I hope we all know that it is the case because of which we started talking about the right to privacy as the part of right to life, and hence it was declared yes, right to privacy is the right to life, and hence you have to have the protection for such data if you think they are private to you. On this line, I want to bring a concept of big data. Now, what is the relevance of big data? Let's go to 2009 Google case. What happened in USA? Government wanted to know the rising cases of winter flu back in US. How could they figure out what is the actual statistics of rising or the actual cases of winter flu? So they did go to the hospitals, they did go to the clinics, they did go to the pharmacies in order to gather the information, how many people are coming, and then they are asking for the medicines like that. But then again, Google came to the government and then they proposed, because we have a search engine, we do collect the data, we do analyze the pattern, and then we give the potential results out of it. So with the simple click of search, that what are the symptoms, if I have certain symptoms, what is the basic treatment or what is the home remedy. So on the basis of such clicks, they gathered the data of millions of people and then they give this information to the government. That became the potential aspect wherein the big data did come for the rescue in order to analyze the actual rising cases of winter flu. So that is the positive aspect to it, obviously. Another thing, if you are aware with the name Ed Zioni, he is a very famous computer scientist in USA. With his own experience, he found a research problem when he was traveling from one country to another. he found that the fare amount that he had to pay is way too higher than the price paid by the other co-passengers, because they booked it right before the flight or something like that. Then he was very confused about the fact. The normal assumption is like sooner we book the flight, more affordable prices are going to get. Yes, that's what we assume. But then he could understand the situation that even if the people are booking at the very moment of the flight or a day prior to the flight, still they're getting the same price. So then he came up with the project called Hamlet. He came up with this project. With this project, he gathered the data for 41 days of all the people who were going to the different websites in order to book the flights. And also airlines did assist him as well, because obviously he was giving some considerations for it. So in a way, in the beginning, there was a breach. How could airlines give such information or access to that fella in order to gather the data and hence analyze it? But then it became legalized. I'll tell you how it became legalized. This concept of Hamlet was converted into the application called Farecasting. And then it was taken over by Microsoft Group for $110 million. So it was purchased from Anxiety. So yes, the big data, the right to privacy, and the actual data. Whenever we gather various patterns over a period of time of number of people, it does not remain as a private concern, because we require the data in order to provide you better facilities. Now we have to draw a line, and then we have to bring an equilibrium to what extent we can gather such data, and within what time we have to retain it or give it back or not, or to take all the efforts so that there is no breach and it does not go to a party who is not allowed to take it. So yes, data, the definition, the privacy, it's all an illusion, I will say, because somewhere we are protecting it, yet we do require it in order to provide you better facilities. And when we talk about the applications, like on iPhone, we have Health app, which gives you the time of your sleep patterns, which gives you the sleep pattern that you have on daily basis, as well as your iPhone provides you the time of your screening. How much time do you spend on your phone just by scrolling Instagram and other social online platforms which are there? So what exactly it means? It is not providing you the facility. It is gathering the data so that on the basis of your search clicks, it can give you the same suggestions in future. Yeah.
Right.
Again, it is not a favor. Again, it is not a favor. It is a favor to those companies. Yeah, to the big companies who are going to advertise their product, and hence psychologically we are going to be influenced, and then we are going to use it. So yes, it is a boon, as well as there are repercussions to it.
It all circles back to the equation that what is more important to your privacy or personalization. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. With that, we come to the end of the session. It was lovely having you here. I'm sure the conversation, if we don't have the paucity of time, this can go on for more than an hour again. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. With that, we'll conclude this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us. Ayushman, if there are any questions, we can entertain it, I believe, for more 5 minutes.
Actually, we have dropped the text for the guests or for the participants to drop any questions, any queries that they might have, but I'm not seeing any question from them.
We don't have curious lawyers in MNLU. What's happening?
I think for some reason, I think this is the second session. A lot of curiosity is did by the previous session, I believe.
Okay. Then thank you for having us, Ayushman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.